Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Healing and Dealing podcast. Today, I'm so excited to introduce Becca. We've been trying to make this happen for, a couple months now. And I'm so happy that you're here and we get to talk all things alcohol free. Becca is a mindset coach and creator of Be Magnificent AF, alcohol free lifestyle design coaching for professional women. Becca was the fun, optimistic, somewhat crazy, rebellious girl who was always ready for a drink. In her 30s, after having children, Becca realized that drinking was no longer serving her. She would try to quit drinking for almost a decade and found it challenging and failed time and time again. She would doubt herself, be angry, and went through a few depressions. When not drinking, she would focus on the bad thoughts and lived in negativity. At the age of 37, she moved and had a significant breakdown. To solve, she did what other successful people did, and she hired a high-level results coach. Through coaching, she transformed how she saw herself, her habits, and ultimately designed an alcohol-free life that she loved, which included rebuilding her marriage and her family. After being alcohol-free for 2 years, Becca started her own coaching business to help professional women do the same. In August of 2023, they celebrated 1 year of Be Magnificent AF Mastermind Program. Because the program is so successful, Becca's goal is to grow the program to help 100 more women learn to love their life and be alcohol-free. Wow, so amazing.
Yay, thank you. I brought tears to my eyes listening to you read that back. So thank you for reading that and thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited to be here.
Of course. This is exactly what this podcast is for, is hearing about these, huge transformations in people's lives and knowing about those dark times and understanding that like we can break out of it. We can make change. We can change who we are to be happy with the person that we are today and how we show up. So it's just so great to have, real personable, relatable examples to offer to everyone. So thank you for being here. You've already accomplished so much. I can't wait to dive into your story and we have so much to relate on, which I know is going to relate to the listeners as well. So let's get started.
Awesome. I'm ready.
All right. So just tell us about, how it started. Like, what was your drinking career like, I guess I would say, from like, when's the first time you drank? I'm curious about that too. And like, what was that pattern like until you really hit that wall?
Yeah, so I first drank at 14 years old and I went to a party and all my friends were drinking at the time. It was kind of the thing. I think so maybe between eighth and ninth grade, going from middle school to high school.
Yeah.
And I drank and I felt like I connected with everyone. And I'm from a small town in South Dakota. So that was a big part of the culture. Like I was never an athlete. I didn't have money. Like we were kind
Mhm.
of more in that poverty culture. I had a lot of trauma as a young child and I never really felt like I belonged. And then I drank and I felt like, oh, I belong. I can be free. Right. And
Yeah.
so from that first time, I was kind of all in
Yeah.
on that social circle and hanging out and drinking with my friends. And so it was a way to really give me significance and make me important is really how I looked at drinking.
Yeah. I totally relate with that. I was right around the same age, about 13, and it was basically all for the same reasons. It was like, okay, I'm included, I'm fun. This is like, this is where I belong. And it was with alcohol. So I totally relate with that. So what happened like after high school and how did it turn out for you then?
Yeah, so I drank on and off through high school, especially like my junior and senior year. It became a big part of who I was. And then I graduated high school and wanted to move as far away from home as possible, right? So I think it's important to understand, like, I always had this high level of rejection of myself, right? Like, I never believed I was enough. I was always like super social. And then because I started drinking at such an early age, I like started repressing a lot of things in my life. And so I kind of rejected my family, I rejected myself, and just
Mhm.
wanted to get as far away from home as possible and start my own life. And so that's where I went to college about 6 hours away. And when I was in college, I started drinking again.
Mhm.
And so we lived on campus in an apartment, and that was just our lifestyle. And so my first year of college, I gained like, they call it the freshman 15. I call it the freshman 50. I mean, can we swear on
Dang.
here? Is this a
Yeah.
family?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I like to swear sometimes, but I gained a lot of weight. And through that, I just became more like, I skipped class, gained
Mm,
a lot of weight, just again, like a lot of identity crisis, right? Like not knowing who I was and who I wanted to be. So long story short, I ended up dropping out of college so I could party and, be
mhm,
me. And I worked at Walmart. And about a year after working there, working at Walmart and realizing like, hey, this is not where I want to go. So I went back to school.
mhm,
Through that process, I actually got in like my first really serious relationship. And in that relationship, we drank a lot and it was super toxic, super unhealthy. And we dated for most of my college career, but it was a really unhealthy. He was also addicted to Adderall. He had prescription
mm.
Adderall. So he like abused Adderall and then drank. And so I lived in this like, I could be a really good student, but then at night I would party and drink. And then I was in this really toxic relationship. And so,
That's
um, at one point, someone from college was like, "Hey, Becca, you should be on run for like student body president or vice president with me." They asked me to be vice president, and I'm like, "No, I would never do that. I don't think so." And he's like, "You're literally like the most popular girl in college." And
wow.
like, I never understood that identity about myself, right? And I would
Mhm,
have friends, and people would be like, "You're so kind, you're so outgoing, you're so loving, you're so
mhm.
popular, like people love you." And I never knew it,
You
right?
never
I couldn't see it about myself because I was so in this like world when I would be home, like
yeah.
my thoughts, and was drinking and was in this like really negative cycle with my
Mhm.
my boyfriend too. And so it was just really interesting because I didn't know, like, to the outside world I was like this happy, fun,
Yeah.
loving, kind person. And then on the inside, I just had self-doubt, I had shame, I was in these negative cycles. So um finally, thank God, my husband, or not my husband, the guy I was dating, and I finally broke up, right? We would like get together, break up, get together, break up, because we were just in
Mhm.
this toxicity. And then, so my senior year of college, I ended up meeting my husband, who is still my husband now. Uh, um, and this was almost like 20 years ago, which is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And so we started that relationship. And again, it was drinking, going, out to the not clubs, but like to the bars,
Yeah.
sitting at home drinking. And so it was just such a like college culture, right? It was
Mhm.
like what you did to hang out, what you did to spend time. I was a bartender.
Yeah.
So that's where we met. I was at the bar. So it was just like alcohol was such a part of my identity of how I socialized. And then it becoming a bartender, I was so popular, right? Everyone wanted to know
Mhm.
me and get a free beer and blah, 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 right? And
Yeah.
so it was just a series of alcohol, even though it was like toxic and created a lot of volatility, it like my needs were met through it because I was important and I was seen, and it was how I connected with my spouse or my boyfriend at the time. So I mean, I literally up until my mid 30s, I drank habitually. I mean, I would stop at times, but for the most part, it was just wrapped in who I was. And part of that, though, created a lot of volatility in how I felt about myself, which really stemmed from my childhood, having a traumatic childhood and never healing, because just right away I just started drinking, and
Yeah.
that path continued for many years.
Yeah. It's so interesting how the more we try to run from it or fight it, it's still there. It still follows you. It's still like, hey, your trauma's like on your shoulder and waiting for you to heal me. Like whenever you're ready and you're like, just try to ignore it, but it's gonna come at some point where I feel like everyone comes to a point in their life where It's like, okay, I need to do something about this. Hopefully everyone comes to that point. Um, and you really try to like not obviously not fix anything, but just work on it and actually like heal the things that you need to so you can get out of those cycles, you know? Because it sounds like
Totally.
you had those things from a very young age and it was like you just kind of went through life on autopilot and drinking was a part of your life and it like you said it checked off the boxes for you in so many different areas. That's why you probably clung on to it so tightly, you know? Excuse me. And then once you kind of see it for what it is, it's like, what else can I check those boxes with besides alcohol, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, my teens, I was thinking I was having fun, even though when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, right? But I think teenagers, you're just awkward and
Yeah.
insecure anyways, for the most part. And in my 20s, I actually, even though I had a lot of volatility and a lot of negativity that came from drinking, like I thought I was having fun,
Hmm.
right? In
Yeah.
my mind, like that yo-yo feeling, like I
Yeah.
just thought it was fun and I didn't know it wasn't that there could be a better way and I didn't really
Right.
care because I believed my lifestyle was amazing and I was living my life, right? So it was like I was having fun. And we moved to Colorado and like all the breweries were here and it was so much a part of our lifestyle and our identity
Hmm.
with my husband and I. And then in my 30s, when I got pregnant, that now looking back, that's when I can realize, okay, this was like the first like big identity conflict I had because then I had to, right,
Hmm.
go from someone who drank to meet all her needs and have fun to someone who like couldn't drink anymore.
Right.
And I got depressed when I was pregnant both times, right? I went into a deep depression and postpartum pregnancy and I never understood what it was. The doctor's like, "Oh, it's like a chemical reaction and things change." And now I know it's because I didn't know who I was without drinking.
Right.
And I all I knew how to do was like go to work and drink with my husband, and that's how we had fun. And
Hmm.
so it became like, well, who am I if I don't drink? And I
Right.
didn't know because I had never practiced, I had never tried. So I became a depressed person. And then I was afraid because I had so much also like I've always been a career woman, right? I've
Mhm.
always been successful in business. And I was afraid that I could lose my position at my work for having a child. And so I kind of went through this conflicting of like, am I going to lose like all of this career I built? And
Mhm.
then now I'm home and I'm not drinking and
Yeah.
so, like, that just led both times with both my children into feeling bad. Plus, I'd had some miscarriages. So then I was also like, am I going to lose the baby? So it was like a
Yeah.
lot of negativity around pregnancy. And so that was like getting pregnant and having my children that created so much conflict in my identity, but it also like awoken a side of me
Hmm.
of like once I became a mom, it was like but I don't think I really want to drink anymore.
Yeah.
However, I didn't know then how to do that. And so from about 30 till 37, 38, well, actually, I quit drinking like right before my 40th birthday. So for like all of my 30s, I kind of lived in this conflict of
Mm.
I'm a mom and I love my kids and I don't like drinking, but I frickin' drink all the time.
Yeah.
And it was just this constant conflict for a decade, which is like crazy to me. It was a decade of me like, I can't, I won't, I'm gonna, I don't care, I'm fine, and it just was this again, another crazy cycle that I didn't know how to, I never got the right support to break out of.
Right. How exhausting. Like 10 years of that cognitive dissonance, like I went through that probably for about 6 months, honestly, and it was just like
Mm.
a battle every day inside my head, and it was like the only way out of it was to just drink. You know what I mean? When you're in that, like if you're already thinking about it, you're probably going to drink. So like I would just be like, why am I fighting with myself? I'm just going to drink and then I don't have to fight anymore, like this other side of me that doesn't want to drink. But man, 10 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just had so much internal conflict, and I think it
Um,
just really stems from I just honestly didn't know who I was.
yeah, and that's what I was
Like,
going to comment on is how freaking crazy it is that once we give up one beverage, how much can change. Like, it blows my mind when I think about it, because if everyone just like, if you're sober curious and you quit for, let's say you stop drinking for 6 months, like what that would do for someone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one to say like everyone should quit drinking forever, but I was just so curious what my life would be like if I didn't drink, that it kind of like activated something in me. Like, and then you're like, wait a second, who am I? What do I like to do? What do I enjoy in life? And like, you're just learning all these things about yourself that you didn't know before because of a beverage, like a toxic drink. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. To me, that just
Absolutely.
blows my mind that we can let this one thing control our whole entire life. And once we actually like let it go for a little bit, what else can open up for you? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I
I want to
think
like scream it at
that's
the mountaintops, you know?
Well, I think that's so powerful, like what, like breaking down what you just said, but that C word, I think, is what changed my life. Going from like feeling judgment and feeling like disappointed and feeling fear to getting curious.
Curious.
Like as soon as I became curious, as
Yeah.
soon as I hired a coach to help me and I started to look at my life differently, right?
Mhm.
Because with this whole process, it's like, it's not like made these huge life changes. Now looking back, it's like, oh
Right.
my God, I did make a lot of
Yeah.
changes when I look at my journey. But it was literally just changing how I looked at my life from like looking at it as like I'm losing, I'm not gonna, be this person to like getting curious. And that was my exact conversation. It was like, who could I be if I didn't drink for a month? Who
Yeah.
could I be, right? What could I become? What would this change? What would this shift?
Mhm.
Instead of like, I need to quit drinking, which was totally my mindset before. And anytime I tried to quit drinking, anytime I like was done drinking, like I couldn't
Mhm.
do it because I didn't have any identity outside of that. So I had to really start building my identity. And we talked about this early, Charlotte, where you joined that program and they didn't like have you quit drinking right away. You just started getting curious. You started
Mhm.
questioning, you started noticing,
Yep.
and then you were able to remove alcohol through the process. And that's really what my journey looked like too. And it's just so powerful. Like we can just make little shifts
Mhm.
and it changes everything.
Yeah, I remember some really good journal prompts like that where it was like, who would I be in a month if I didn't, or who do I want to be? Like, you kind of visualize the person that you see who's like alcohol free and like your highest self and like living for your purpose. And every time I would do that, it would build that identity more and more. So you're totally spot on there, because it helps you like create this other version that you know you want and you can see and you can feel her. But like the alcohol is just keeping you playing so small and holding you back. So once you can like see and like imagine that other version of yourself, it's easier to be like, okay, I really want to drink, but this also sounds really good. And like, I kind of want to see what that's like, you know? So yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, and the writing,
Yeah.
that always helped me, like journaling it and really trying to vision what my life would be like without it, or what type of person do I want to be? You know what I mean? Like health wise, fit wise, like we have all these, health and wellness coaches that still drink, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do you want to show up in your life? You know what I mean? So yeah, I love that. Is that,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I think something is really important here that you brought up about journaling, right? Because journaling can really help us like release our subconscious. And so I've always been a journaler. Like my great aunt Dodie gave me a journal when I was like 10 years old. And I look through my journal and probably from when I was 10 until probably about when I started coaching at maybe 37, maybe a little bit before that, my journals are so freaking mean, depressing, sad, right? Like, and I had gone to this journaling class, and these people were like using journaling as this tool to like create this higher version self, this higher thing. And I
Mhm.
never understood that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have just journaled to as a release to like let all of this
Yeah.
darkness because I had so much darkness in here, right? Like so much shadow work that I had to do. So I was doing it and it helped me, right? It would help me to like, because writing is thinking, right?
Mhm.
So we're essentially like going through our thoughts.
Yeah.
However, what the pivot was to shift from just going through all this darkness and just constantly like, my life sucks, my life is horrible, blah 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 blah, to when I went to the coaching and the prompts, and it was like shifting my focus,
Yeah.
right? It was shifting my focus and what I was looking at when I was writing.
Mm,
And that's what we do through my coaching program too. Like, yes, there has to be this degree of letting go, and it's a very focused way that we let go, right, of our
mhm.
old stories, our limiting beliefs, and we're able to like walk through it in a way that's really empowering. And
Exactly.
like, it is painful too, right? Like, when letting go is hard, because at our core, like, the human psychology part, it's really hard to let go of who we think we are.
Mhm.
And so when like someone like me, who, even though I'm like this happy bubbly like lover on the outside, like in here I had so much darkness. And even though I continue to let go of this darkness, I continue to have to go through this process often. Like, there's this point that I want to hold on to her,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't want to let go of her because that's me. And it's at such a subconscious level. So by having like these structure
Mhm.
into how we release, and then this structure of getting curious about who we can be, I
Mhm.
think is so important to the journaling process. And I just wanted to point
Yeah.
that out, because if someone's like, well, I've been journaling for years and I still feel like shit. Well, yeah, that was me too,
Yeah.
until I was able to really get the structure.
Yeah.
There's a science behind how we can lead our mind, and there's a science about how we can let go. And that combination is what really creates that freedom
Yeah.
inside.
Exactly. The subconscious part is huge. I agree. And I love how you said, that that other girl you didn't want to let go of. It's a safety. It's where you've been for so long. It's, your comfort zone. And so I totally get that. And kind of venturing out without her, it's almost like I have the same thing, and it's like you learn to love her and you appreciate her and you thank her for being there in those times that you needed her, but like you don't need her anymore. Like, right, like it doesn't serve you anymore. So I'm learning how to, like, obviously, like, I've already forgiven that version of myself. I really have, but I'm still like a little bothered by her. Like, why did you go down that road? Like, what happened? Like, I know what happened, but essentially, like, deep down, I'm still trying to figure out, like, how can I love her, like, unconditionally and, like,
Mhm.
completely appreciate what she gave me in those moments. So I love that you said that, because so much of it is like understanding that we have past versions of ourselves that we do have to love and appreciate. And that's definitely been a process for me, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's such a common thread, right? We've all had these experiences. We've all made choices that we're ashamed of. We've
Hmm.
all made choices that we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. We've all made
Yeah.
major, major mistakes, but they only haunt us if we don't learn the lessons from them, right? They only haunt us if we continue to judge ourselves for
Hmm.
them. And so this judgment piece of judging ourselves and judging others is so interesting, because judgment is like what holds us stuck,
Yeah.
right? It's like, it's what holds us stuck. And that's why doing programs like the mastermind I have, or like the program you're in, or even just like sharing our stories, it's like,
Hmm.
then we can release some of that judgment, because we can be like, oh my gosh, Becca did this, or Charlotte did this too. What? I'm not the
Exactly.
only one that like blacked out and said something stupid, or like got in a fight with my husband while drinking, or whatever that is, right? Because
100%.
prior to coaching, to me joining coaching, and even like I was in therapy, and I've done all sorts of stuff, right? And
Hmm.
um I held so much shame around who I was
Yeah.
when I drank,
Yeah.
and what I did when I drank. And I believed that no one had it as bad as me. No one,
Wow.
right? And that's common. We
Hmm.
all think as humans that our problems are the worst.
Yeah. Exactly.
And and it's not true, right?
Yeah.
Because all of our problems, we all have the same problems, but we demonize ourselves because we hold it in shame and we hold this judgment and we think we're like the worst person. No one could be as stupid as us. No one could fuck up as bad as I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just simply not true.
Yeah, 100%. That's what's so great about a coaching container is because you're just surrounded by people that totally get it, understand, and then whoever's running it or the coach like you for instance, like you can you have a strategy. Like you're working it in a way where all of them together can kind of relate and then they all rise up and bloom together. So that's why I love coaching programs. Like I honestly have invested in myself multiple times and I've grown so much each time. It's not anything I would ever like regret doing. Any coaching program I've ever joined is just like, wow, that was it either like reframed things for me, it transformed certain parts of who I am, helped me see myself differently or the world differently. So I'm just like so sold on it. Now I'm just working on my own group coaching container, but not for alcohol. I want to go kind of my first one's going to be for families or, friends of addicts. So kind
Mm.
of leaning in that direction of building a support group for that coaching container. Anyways,
Love that. Well, that's awesome. And it's so important. And this is coming up for me. So I want to share because there's a couple things where literally coaching to me is like the support or the parent that I wished I had,
mm,
right? It's like someone who loves me unconditionally, someone that I can tell like my deepest, darkest things that I think are so bad too.
mhm,
And they're like, that's not even like that's not bad, like because they know so much, they know so much about human psychology and how we are, and then they can direct me gently, they can love me and direct me gently in a way to where I just feel so empowered, right? I
mhm,
feel so good about myself that I can keep hitting this next level in my life, whatever that is. Like
yeah,
my goal right now, like my three big goals right now in life, like these are my big juicy goals in life right now. One, and this has all come through coaching and meditation and like really doing the work. Like my number one biggest goal right now is to tap into my intuition,
I love
like
that.
to just love my intuition, like know it and believe it and be where I can listen to it. My
Mhm.
second big juicy goal right now is to love myself, to
Yeah.
like love myself at my core, right? At my core, just to like be unshakable in loving myself. And my third, like big, juicy goal right now is to love my family and to love my inner circle. Like, just make sure that I'm just like showing them so much love and that they feel the love, like this unconditional love that I've given to them, right? And like those are like my three like huge goals in life right now. And I actually am radiating, like I can feel it from my heart right now as I speak of it. And that's like the power of like having someone who loves me and is coaching me in this way. It's like there's no fear. It's like
Mhm.
breaking through all of that. And when you have your intuition, when you love yourself and when you love everyone, like to this your inner circle to this like degree, like anything is possible. You don't need to drink. You don't need to like beg to be seen. You start to like break through all these limiting beliefs. You start to like create a life. Like if you have a life that's created out of intuition and love for yourself and others, like
Can I ask
anything is possible.
can I ask you to break those down? Like I'm very curious. The intuition part, I'm very familiar with. Like, I'm familiar with all of them, but I'm just so curious how you do it and how someone listening would be like, I want to follow my intuition. Like, what would you tell them, or what types of things are you doing to love yourself? You know what I mean? Like, how are you building that goal? What are you doing to work on all
Yeah,
those?
that's a great question. So so to love myself, well, okay, so this is kind of coming. So like I've just had a really kind of tough few months.
Okay.
I'm just kind of coming out of like some major grief. I hired a coach to really help me to scale my business and like help to
Yeah.
reach more people. And I really had a tough time with her. Like it was through the process, I would have some ups, but like I really like felt really bad about myself through that coaching program.
Oh,
And so it was really like a huge lesson for me because I've always hired coaches that I've like just soared with, right? And in this case, I actually shut down and I started to really doubt myself. I started to really think I wasn't good enough. I started to just
mm.
not believe in myself in a way. And then she was always like, "Well, I'm doing all this for you, and you're so up and down." And it was like such a crazy journey for me to where I started to like doubt myself. I started to believe there was something wrong with me because everyone else loved this coach. Everyone else was like having this momentum and I wasn't, and I was having a hard time. And so I really hit this kind of like low point. This was just a few weeks ago to where my husband's like, "You need to stop with that coach. Like you're done.
Good
Like
job.
the data is showing me like you are not getting the help you need from this coach and you
Yeah.
need to go back to your old coach. You're calling your old coach right now and you're going back to her and you are going to um and it was like the best like kind of tough love I needed in my life
Yeah.
because what had happened is I joined this program and right away I knew I didn't want to be in it.
You
Like
felt,
I knew my intuition was like, I don't want to be in it. And she wouldn't let me leave.
oh my
Right. She's like, you already did it. Like, you need to do it. And like twice, I wanted to get out and she wouldn't let me. And it was an expensive program. Like, it
God.
was the
They're
most
not
I've ever
cheap.
paid for coaching. And so I stayed in it, even though on multiple occasions I wanted to quit. And so I did not listen to my intuition in the sense of like, I thought I wanted to join it. I thought the universe was like, and so I did. And then I wanted out. But because I had invested so much money, I kept going and I kept trying and I kept
Mhm.
doing this. And so I'd override my who I was and
Mhm.
be a part. And it was really hard for me. But then I would like, okay, I get it. I'm having a breakthrough, right? But like because of the style of coaching, this person was like a high D, like very dominant, like in a disc level, if you've ever done that. So, and I'm not D at all. And
Yeah.
so I always felt kind of attacked, right? I always felt kind of like, and when I listened to or coach other people, I just never could, I would shut down. And so, long story short, I stayed in the program because I made the investment. And while I did have growth and I learned stuff, and I made a lot of changes in my life, um, it really, I didn't get the progress, right? So, like, in order to be
Yeah.
happy in our life, we have to have progress.
Mhm.
I emotionally regressed through the program
Wow.
because I felt like there was something wrong with me. She kept telling me I was having ups and downs. She kept telling me right, all of these things, and those were triggering me
Mm.
because my other coaches that I've had, they've never said that stuff to me. They're like, you're up and down. And if you're someone who has struggled with your identity, if you've struggled with self-love, and if you've struggled with these things, which I had for many years, to have
Mhm.
someone come in and tell me that I was being so up and down, that I was having all these hard things.
Yeah.
And I was like, I believed her.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
and so it shifted me and I just started spiraling. I mean, I still like everything was fine, but in my mind, I was regressing.
Mhm.
And so even though I made the big investment, right? If I would have listened to my intuition, like I could have pushed harder to say, I'm just not going to be in the program. I'm not, but I didn't. I didn't listen to myself time and time again, three different times. I was like, this is not working. This is, and and so through it, I just I regressed.
Mm.
And so that was a way of listening to my intuition that I learned in a difficult way.
Yeah.
Now, everything I do is like, what's the lesson? What can I pull out of it? What did I learn? So I learned about different styles of coaching. I learned about understanding if there's a clash and in coaching, and maybe you don't, just because someone wants to sign up with your coaching and then it doesn't work, it's okay to let go. Like I don't need to save everyone. It's not about money. It's about like
Exactly.
is there rapport, right? So I
Yeah.
learned about all
Mm.
of this stuff through it, but it took me down a really crazy road to get there. Um, so going back to my intuition, it's like, who am I and what do I want? Well, I'm love.
Mhm.
So I want to feel love. And granted, there's always going to be things that are going to trigger me. Like the more I slow down and garner into my intuition. So what do I need to be intuitive? All right, I'm going to start meditating. I've
Mhm.
been meditating for a long time, but through all this, I quit meditating because I just got out of my cycle, right?
Yep.
So I need to meditate more. Through meditation, I have all of these breakthroughs,
Yeah.
right? I have all of these directionally guided on where I need to be because I'm just calming my nervous system. I'm
Yeah.
going into a place of like love and peace, and I'm making decisions guided from there. I had a friend this week that I just kept thinking about. I'm like, I need to contact her. And the next morning, I got a call from her, and she was in this emergency, and she had taken some prescription medication. And, anyways, I've been able to help her all weekend, but I was guided by my intuition where it was
Mhm.
like, you need to contact her. And so just the little things like that, or like, us trying to connect for all this time and it just didn't work, but now it does work, right? And
Mhm.
like going with that intuition, just because it didn't work in the past doesn't mean it won't still work. And I
Exactly.
felt free and guided now would be the perfect podcast episode versus a
Yeah.
couple months ago,
Totally.
right? So going with that intuition that things will be easy, they don't have to be hard.
Mhm.
Um, and
Following
and
the
also,
nudges, right?
what's that?
Following the nudges instead of ignoring them.
Absolutely. The
Mhm.
voice within, which I'm so good at quieting, or alcohol really quiets,
Yeah.
or trauma quiets, drama quiets, right? So it's about quieting
Exactly.
through exercise, journaling. I do a lot of journaling. So it's that ritual of like everyone's intuition is unique, but what
Mhm.
is that ritual that helps you to quiet down, to listen to your voice more, and then to follow through with
Yes.
that voice.
I love that. And then what types of things are you doing to like build that love within yourself?
So it's very similar. But even just little things like, like I had this big change in my life, and where I've been wanting a really nice office for a couple of years now, and I have one now. And so just investing in like a really pretty color on the wall and painting,
Yes.
and buying myself a scented candle,
Mhm.
and having essential oils and having the right light and pretty curtains, right? So just those little things
Yeah.
that make me feel, in my sense, more feminine, like
Yeah.
really going back to my feminine nature of love and all encompassing. Working out is so important, being active, using my body. um, and I think the big thing, probably the biggest shift when I was kind of going through, one of the great things is when you kind of like get, life gets crazy and you fall out of your self-love, or you fall out of your intuition, is you get to like see this dark line of like, this is what I need to do, this is what I don't need to do. But really, I think the number one thing about self-love that I've been incorporating into my life is that I choose what's most important to me, and I create that schedule for myself, and
Mhm.
everything else falls into place. Like everything else can come around it. Any other meeting, any other session, any other time with other people, but really cultivating like, who am I at my core? Well, I love people. I
Mhm.
love spending time with people one on one. So making sure I'm scheduling that.
Yeah.
And I love to work out, and I'll push it out. I won't do it because I'll get so busy, right? And so making sure I have time for working out. I love my family. So not putting my business, or like I also work full time, like
Yeah.
in front of my family, like having boundaries of like, this is my working, this is not. And so really by deciding like, this is what I want and this is who I am, and
Mhm.
having everything fall into place, like I'm so much more relaxed,
Yeah.
and I feel so much better because I'm not trying to please everyone. I'm
Mhm.
pleasing myself first. And through that space, I have so much more to give.
That was amazing advice. I love that so much.
Oh,
It's because I mean, that's something I definitely need to work on, and I think probably a lot of people, like, for me especially is, I work full time also, so I'm curious, do you schedule out your time, for this business that you've created as an alcohol-free coach? Like, do you do it on the weekends? Like, how does your family react to that? Like, how does that look in
Mhm.
your house?
Well, it's definitely up until now been somewhat challenging,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and so because I am a mom,
Mm-hmm.
so and I'm married, and I work full time, and
Yep.
then I run a business, and then I also want to do things like working out and blah blah, blah, right?
Yeah,
So like right here on this board right here, I have the answer equals build my world and my business around my needs.
I love that so
And
much.
that, and then I have a schedule right there, right? So I'm sleeping from 8:30 to 4:30, right? So I'm making sure I'm getting my sleep. And obviously it like doesn't always work like that, but right, it's like any way we direct our mind's going to go.
Yeah.
So if we go to scarcity and it's not enough and I can't do it and blah 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 blah, right? So it's like, and then here's my time for exercise, here's my time for my kids, here's my time that I'm working on my business. Here's my time that I'm in my corporate world. And then back to my business and then my family time. So it's very simple, very scheduled. And it's helping my family to know what to expect because I was all over the place for a while. And then my husband would be like, what, you have a call now? Or,
Yeah.
you have this now? And we're supposed to be doing family time.
Yeah.
And so, or my kids would be like, what are we doing? And I was like taking calls on vacation. And I was so kind of in scarcity mindset that I have to give all
Mhm.
to everyone at any moment. Otherwise, I can't be successful.
Yep.
And I was like feeling depleted. And so just by making those shifts and then communicating that
Yeah.
to my spouse and communicating it to my kids, it's really, really helpful. And then doing work on the weekends. Yep. But not all day, right? Like I don't want to work all day. I'll take calls on the weekends because I'm a global business. I have clients in Australia.
Yeah.
Um, and so I do stuff on the weekend, but it's very scheduled.
Yeah.
And having that schedule and protecting who I need to be, that's like at the core is self-love. And it's been a small shift that's really, really been helping me.
I am so appreciative that I just learned all of that. Seriously, I feel like you just coached me because I'm like, wait, this sounds like what I need to do. Like I'm definitely being pushed in the direction to really set some type of schedule up. And because for me, I feel like I'm trying to cram, like today we don't have much, we only have one game, but I feel like I'm trying to cram so much into my days that I have to like mentally prepare for the next day. And it's like, I don't want to feel that way. I want to, like you said, I want to have like my most important things, which I still need to figure out. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what do I want in my life every day. I know I want to meditate every day. I know I want time with myself so I can be, in touch with my spirit guides and really have that like quieting time. I need that. I know I do. And then I want the family time. I want to work on my business. And then I also have my job too. So we're super similar. And I'm just so grateful that I just heard how you run it because it gives me such a clearer picture of what it could look like in like a loving, peaceful way and not like chaotic and, stressful. So thank
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. And I just want to say, and it's still, there's going to be chaos and
Yeah.
still there's going to be stress, right? But it's like knowing then when we're dealing with stress, it comes from a place of already being calm, right?
Yeah.
When we're dealing with chaos, it comes from a place of already being calm versus dealing with chaos when I'm in chaos.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
way different, or dealing with crazy when I'm already feeling crazy, that's way different. And so, and I travel for work too in my corporate job. And so I've got a lot of traveling coming up and I'm a big a student
Husband.
of Tony Robbins. So I do his events, which are like 4-day, 5-day events. I'm doing Life Mastery coming up and I'm doing UPW. And those are kind of like my refueling and
Mhm.
really helping me at a spiritual level. And so like that asks a lot of my family
Yeah.
to do these things, right? Like, and so just being really clear, like, okay, in Tony's world, there's no hours, like it's crazy. And so it's created a lot of uncertainty, which my family likes certainty. And so just also like coming from a place of understanding, like our families love us,
Mhm.
right? Our everyone out here that we've chosen to be in our inner circle,
Right.
like we just have to sometimes like be very calm in what we're asking them for, right?
Yeah.
Because when you have a mindset like I work full time and I'm gonna run a business and I'm gonna do this, like there is conflict sometimes in what we're asking.
For
And so I think that's so important to just gently explain to them
Mhm.
the why, the what, it's temporary, even though it's happening in 3 more months and then in another 2 months, right?
Yeah.
It is temporary and it's so fulfilling. And it's what I'm doing instead of being drunk. It's what I'm doing instead of being drunk and sad and depressed. Like I'm loving my fucking life. And
Yes.
this is what my crazy ass life looks like. And I love it.
Yeah, I totally relate with that. I think I'm just used to living in that type of like craziness, with so many kids and just like always coordinating, I feel like nonstop. And I do like it. But I always want to make sure I'm coming from a regulated place, like you said. So, yeah, 100%. I have one more question for you, which I've actually been curious about since I started being in your group and all of that. You know how when we're building our businesses, we create like an avatar? Like for my podcast, I created this avatar listener. Like, who do I want to listen to my podcast? I picture this woman, she's maybe 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And like, you really like narrow down. I want to know like who is someone who is your avatar for your program? Like, describe her, like
Mm.
someone listening. Maybe she does need this help right now with being alcohol free and like learning what that life is like.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. So my avatar she's actually between like 35 and 75.
Awesome.
So I have a wide range, and she knows that there's more to life than drinking, right? And she's kind of in this conflict of where I was, where I don't want to drink, but I keep drinking. And I want to be on this spiritual growth path,
Yes.
right? I want to grow and I want to learn and I just want to expand. And so, really, like someone who wants to learn, someone
Mhm.
who wants to um, connect with other women and have
Mhm.
deep conversations. One of my clients always calls the mastermind. She's like, it's conversations with God. Like, that's literally what we're doing is we're having these conversations. And someone who's not afraid to be wooey because we're a little like we're not normal, right? So someone who's not normal, someone
Yeah,
who is okay not being normal, someone who is okay being different than what normal people do,
right.
right? Because we're not drinking, we're
Mhm.
sitting here, we're asking deep questions, we're meditating, we're like using our body, we're grabbing beautiful things from the future, and we're dancing, and we're like doing what not normal people do
Right.
because we want to live an extraordinary life. Right. And so it's like someone who truly wants to live an extraordinary life, take it to the next level. In so many ways, it's like the woman who is a leader. And
Mhm.
that's why I've had a lot of professional women in my group because I want women who are ready to lead, to
Mhm.
change the life of not only themselves but their family, like the organizations that they're in, and really just like a woman who is not afraid to invest
Yeah,
in herself,
right.
right? And so someone, because I had people come to me and I get this all the time. I can't believe you're charging for this.
Mm-mm.
There's free stuff out there. I'm like, well, then go do your free,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
but the women who are in the mastermind, they gladly pay it. And I'm probably not charging enough, honestly, for like the value they get in other programs that are similar to this. But I want to make it at a point where they feel really good about their investment and are just really committed to hitting that next level in life in a crazy, fun, spiritually guided way.
I love it. I love all of it. I would have been perfect to a year ago.
Yes.
I would have been a perfect candidate to join your group. But I know I have a lot of listeners that are sober curious and they reach out to me and they're like always, asking questions or I'll get the questions where they're like, was it really that bad? Like you didn't seem like, you were that bad. I'm like, Yeah, because you're good at covering it up, like you said, like it's all in here, like all the work I had to do was in here, all that shadow work. So, um, I'm just so grateful that there's programs like yours out there because I mean, 5 years ago, there was nothing, as far as like this, like people who've actually gone through it, and created something beautiful from that. So other people don't have to go through all that shit and they can like get there faster. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's exactly it, right? So like that's the whole point of this is like helping to move you forward quicker, faster, where you don't feel alone and you start to recognize that this stuff in your head is can be shifted. It's just a thought,
Yeah.
right? It's just a thought and it's just a conditioned thought. It's just a habit.
Yep.
Like who you're being, drinking, it's just a habit. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. However, you're the only one that can change your life. No
Yes.
one else is going to change your life. And so, like, because it's just a habit of thought, and because you're the only one who can do the work to change your life, like,
Mhm.
here's an online program. We do it 6 months, and we do it 6 months because we're reprogramming. Like,
Mhm.
if you think of someone like me, I drank for 25 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's a lot of reprogramming.
Yep.
And you don't have to be you don't have to be, I don't like the word sober, but you don't have to be sober to start. However, you have to want to be alcohol free,
Yeah.
right? Which is like a freedom from alcohol, not needing alcohol in your everyday life anymore. And that's really important. And so I just think it's interesting in the sense of like there is like this program that I offer, like it's guaranteed to help you if you do the work. Like
Mhm.
you will shift beyond your own beliefs. However, like you have to do the work. You have to show up. No one else is going to do it for you. And it's crazy that this is not common knowledge.
Right.
Like what I offer and what I coach, like it's crazy to me. And that's what my clients say. They're like, how did we not learn this? How did we not like understand this about ourselves? And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't know why it's not taught like normally. I think we're starting to evolve. Like you said,
Mhm.
like 5 years ago, we didn't have this. Now we do.
Yeah.
But it's not like these huge big changes. It's just small, slight differences in how we look and how we see our life and in what we do that like huge results come from it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Those little changes have been like the fuel that's really changed my entire life. And I love like I just had a great realization. Like I am free from alcohol, and it feels so good to say when you said like they have to want to be free from alcohol. Like I don't feel like I'm trapped anymore. I'm just like
Yes.
so happy. I'm so grateful for that, and like I'm free from it and it doesn't control me. It doesn't even come up in my brain every day. I used to think about it like
Yes.
every 10 minutes, like, oh, I'm gonna have a drink tonight, or driving home, can't wait to have a drink when I get home. It's like I'm so free from all of that brain chatter, all of that space, all of that, like decision fatigue where you're just like, you're so tired of fighting yourself, you're like, screw it, I'm just gonna drink. I'm just so grateful that we're both free from that. And now look at us.
Yes. Yay. And it's easier than you think when
It
you
is.
have the right, when you're directing your mind in the right way,
Yeah.
right? Like, yes, things are hard, but it's like choose your hard. Do you want
Yeah.
to continue drinking and feeling like shit? Or do you want to like go through just like a slight shift and process and it may be hard for a while and then it gets better? And
Yep.
then knowing that life is always like, what do the Buddhists say? Life is pain, right? So there's always going to be pain in life. However, you get to choose if you want to suffer. And continuing to drink is suffering. Continuing to think the way that we've been taught to think, like who taught you to think, right? I
Yeah.
know where I got taught to think, and it unfortunately like wasn't a empowering way of thinking.
Right.
I mean, there were moments of empowerment, but my default was negativity, and all of our brains are wired for negativity, right? Like they're trying to protect us and keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a slight understanding is my brain's always going to go to the negative. Most people's do. And I'm going to train it to see what I want it to see. I'm going to train it to see the positive. I'm going to train it to see how much of a badass I am, that I'm 3 years alcohol free, that I own my own business, that I'm a great mom, that I, XYZ. But if I don't consistently train myself and if I start to listen to the outer world, I feel like shit. I feel like I'm not enough. I feel like I
Yep.
just feel bad.
Yeah.
So it's all just like slight shifts and it's just training and the repetition because again, 25 years of drinking versus 3 years of alcohol free, like I
Yep.
have to consistently work on it. The work never ends. It's lifelong, really.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm still training my brain. I'm celebrating you. I'm celebrating me. I'm so proud of both of us. Yeah,
High
it's huge. High
five.
five. Yes. Like I'm so glad that we finally connected. We are very,
Yes.
very similar. It's crazy. Like so much of what you said, I completely relate to, and I know my listeners will too. And I just thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to meet with me and all of my listeners. And I'm going to include all of your stuff in the show notes, but if you want to say it here in case someone wants to look up your Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, go ahead and put it out there.
Yeah, my name's Becca Walkinshaw. So Walkinshaw. It's easier to say or spell than it appears.
Yeah.
And so I've got a Facebook group or a Facebook page. So you can find me at Becca Walkinshaw on Facebook. And then I have a free group, Be Magnificent AF Women. So it's like alcohol free women. Start your journey here. So you can find us there, or you can find me. I have a web page. I'm not very active on it, but you can Google me there at bemagnificentaf.com.
Yeah, I love your Facebook group, by the way. I love the connection between the women. I love the celebrations. I love that there's still women that are really in the thick of it going through it, you know? It's a great place to be if you're curious about the life of being free from alcohol.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. There's about 400 women in the group right now.
Huge. That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. Especially I just got like a post from last year, like you know how Facebook does a reminder and
Uh-huh.
it's like you just started this group. And
Yes.
so it's like
Wow.
it's crazy what you can do in a year, right? It's crazy when you direct your mind from alcohol and suffering to like helping people and serving people, which is part of that spiritual journey, right? And
Absolutely.
like creating and so yeah, we have the 400 and I think this is really important for people to know. It's a closed group.
Yeah.
So you have to be accepted in and everything is private in there.
Yeah.
And so I love that because it gives that feeling of like we can share at a deeper level without that fear of like
Mhm.
someone knowing or finding out.
Yeah. And then you go live in the group, right? Often.
Yeah, I go live quite often. So I'm always just sharing tips and tricks of what I'm going through in my life or what my clients are going through or things I'll hear. So always looking to bring you like the best, most fresh insight and information. As you know, I mean, I have two different coaches right now. At one point, I had three this year. I had a mindset, I had my business coach, I have a financial coach.
Awesome.
I love coaching, right? It's changed my life, so I continue to invest. And then I
Mhm.
continue to invest, like I'll be crewing for Tony Robbins and 2 weeks for Life Mastery. So like, and then I'll be doing UPW. So everything that I'm learning, like the best of the best mindset health, right? I bring that into the group and into the mastermind.
So great. Yeah, always evolving, always learning and passing it down. I always one of the my professors always told me like, you know those monkeys that you grab the arm and you pull the other one up? Have
Oh
you
yeah.
ever play with those like the little
Yeah.
monkeys? And he's like,
Yeah.
what I'm doing is I'm giving out my arm, I'm lifting you up, you're going to do the next person and the next person. It's like that always stuck in my mind and that's what I feel like we're doing,
Mm.
you know? So in layman's terms, we're like little monkeys grabbing each other, pulling each other up to get that banana.
Totally. And there's not enough of us out there.
Not.
Right. So like if you're listening to this and you're thinking about being a coach or starting a podcast or like anything to help people who need to be empowered in their life, absolutely do it.
Yep.
Like there are so many people, like I just read in the Denver Post a couple weeks ago, like alcohol use, drug use has gone up. It continues to go up. More people are suffering. Poverty's going up. Like people need our help because we can truly help people to feel empowered in their
Exactly.
life. And that's what we need. We have enough bullshit out there. We have enough people telling us we're wrong, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
So, like, we need more people speaking up, showing what can be done, and changing people's lives, period.
Amen. Drop mic. Love it. Thank you so much for this conversation. And thank you
Yay.
to my beautiful audience for listening. I can't wait to see all of you on the next episode. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Mwah! We'll talk to you soon.